it up to now?
This last one, I think I was about 86 days. 86 or 87.
Well, yeah.
And they're going to want you to do it monthly. Well, I'm not doing monthly. Of course, you got taxes everywhere. Keep coming out of your account monthly now. I've only got mine yearly.
Tough to pay through, wasn't it?
My debit card changed.
That wasn't your plan.
Still, and they sent me a thing, and it's in October, they sent me a thing this week, said, you need to update your card. So they tried,
It's up to about 25, but we still haven't seen Jimmy making, if don't have some.
I guess that's good.
Between 45 and 50.
How you doing? Good, good. I believe it is. Hey, Steve.
It is?
Okay.
Do you want it? Do you
Yeah.
turn it off? You good?
How is everybody today? Or tonight? Sorry. This is gonna be a little different tonight. Van Dallas, he asked me, was I nervous? And, I can say I am. My mother, she had stopped by the field today and brought me some dinner. And, she asked me the same thing, was I nervous? And, I told her I was, but I guess that's, normal. This has come about Monday. Brother Anthony, he called me while I was sitting in line waiting on Van Dallas to get out of school, and I seen his number and I picked up, and he said, Brother Sheely's going to have eye surgery, and I can't do it. I've got a revival to attend and help in, and he said, would you do the Bible study on Wednesday night? So I said yes, and as soon as I said yes, I asked him, I said, well, what do you want me to do it over? He said, well, I'm going to leave that up to you. So I prayed about it, and this came about 2 weeks ago that I was praying for my Sunday thought, maybe you could say, and I prayed about it, and I was going to do it last Sunday, and I put it off, and I did something else. And it's funny how God works, that they called me and wanted me to do this. And so tonight it's going to be a little different. And I hope, everybody here that I know of saved. And I hope you can take something out of it. And it's really to the lost. And the reason why I say it's to the lost, and maybe there's nobody here, and I asked Brother Stephen, was it on the internet? And he said yes. And I got a dear friend of mine that I've done a lot of things with. I've grew up with him. I talked to him about salvation. When I was younger, he saw me at a time when I was lost. And as I talked to him many years ago, he would tell me that he remembered me being lost, that there were certain things that I wouldn't do. I remember he said one time that I wouldn't get in a boat in a pond because I was afraid that I would drown. And he remembered that stuff. Well, as we got older, we worked together. We spent a lot of time together, and I would talk to him about salvation, and he just didn't quite understand it. And as I got to thinking and studying on this, 25 years ago, me and this man now, we were in a bad truck wreck, and it was my junior year of high school, and we were headed up to a camp out, and if anybody knows the Kenny Fort Bridge, the old Kenny Fort Bridge, it's really narrow, and I passed 4 or 5 cars on that bridge that night, and he looked at me and he said, we're going to die tonight. He put his seatbelt on, 10 seconds up the road, I hit a guardrail. We flipped 3 or 4 times. I didn't have my seatbelt on. I never came out of the vehicle. There's no doubt that God was watching over me and him that night. And remember when it all came to a standstill, stop. We were in the middle of the road. Guardrail was pulled out in the middle of the road. He was still attached to the seat and we were upside down. And he pushed the button and he failed. And it all happened so quick that I thought we could push the truck out of the ditch. So we got out. But as the years went on, I really thought about that night. And I didn't know it back then. But if he was lost, I was hauling some precious cargo. And I owe it to myself and him. I messaged him today. I asked him what he was doing tonight. He doesn't live here anymore. He didn't message me back, but he hadn't looked at the message yet. And the good thing about this, if we record this, I can tell him just to watch it. And I hope that he messaged me later and I can tell him to watch it and just explain some things to him. But as I thought about all that, I guess if you want to title this something, it's going to be The Simple Plan of Salvation and Why It Seems So Hard. And I know I don't have a bunch of sheets printed off like Brother Sheely does, but we're going to start our reading in Matthew chapter 27, verse 11 through 50. You might have to give me some time to get everywhere I want to be tonight. But so in Matthew chapter 27, 11 through 50. And Jesus stood, and I'm reading these verses because I want to just point out what Jesus did for all of mankind and the reality of what he did and how far he took all the sin. He took it all the way. And I just want to point out of what he done for us. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. And as I read verse 14, saying he never answered a word. And I don't know about y'all, but have you ever been in an argument with somebody and you're wanting to get a reaction out of them, and maybe you're stirring the pot and they don't answer you or they don't acknowledge anything that you said? A lot of times it makes it worse. It's makes them madder, and it's just the silent treatment. In verse 16 it says, and they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife said unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. And as I thought about verse 20, I can imagine the crowd that was there chanting, to crucify Jesus. And here's Jesus thinking maybe there was a way out, and maybe they would pick him instead of Barabbas. But I know in the back of his mind, Jesus knew what had to be done. And he knew that wasn't an option. And I've always heard, back when they had the drafts and stuff for war, that there'd be a busload of soldiers, and maybe 2 or 3 would volunteer, and somebody would get off the bus and maybe not go to war. And that's the same way that I perceive that Jesus was there in Barbados, and they was gonna let one of them go, but instead of letting Jesus, the Son of God, go, they let Barbados go. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barbados. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why, what evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. Pilate knew that he was the Son of God. He knew in his heart that he did nothing wrong. He knew that maybe he wanted to let him go, and if you've ever been in a crowd or around a lot of people doing something maybe that shouldn't be doing, it's a lot easier to go along with the crowd than go the other way. And that's what Pilate did. Verse 24, it says, When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. So Pilate was washing his hands in front of the multitude, the crowd, and I think he just did that as a sign, maybe saying, I know he's innocent. I want to let him go, and if y'all are going to crucify him, it's on y'all. So then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and our children. When I read that, even though Pilate washed his hands, didn't matter how many times he washed them, and these people that said, His blood be on us and our children, little did they know that His blood is on every one of us. He shed His blood so we could have a free gift in salvation. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. When the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers, and they stripped him and put on a scarlet robe. And when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put upon his head and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. So even then, as they dressed him and stripped him of his clothes, I imagine they put the reed in his hand and the crown of thorns on his head, and they were still mocking him the whole time. And they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him in the head. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they were coming to a place called Galatia, that is to say, a place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, and it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. So even then, they placed a sign over him, and it's in capital letters in this King James Bible. This is Jesus, the King of Jews. They wanted everybody to see him humiliated amongst everybody. Then were there are two thieves crucified with him, one on the right and another on the left. This is going to get to my point about the simple plan of salvation. And as I thought about the simple plan of salvation, I thought about that the work's already been done. The hard part, Jesus going through this, every bit of it's been done. And I thought about if you ever showed up to a job and it was completed, and you got the reward for it. You got paid for it. That's what salvation is. Salvation is Jesus dying on the cross for everybody's sins, just so you can have a reward one day in heaven. And let's see, verse 40, and saying, thou that destroy the temple and buildest in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise, also the chief priests, mocking him with the scribes and elders, said, he saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. So there was a thief on one side and a thief on the other, and the one thief, he was still, all the stuff he saw go on that day, all the signs that pointed toward Jesus, he was still mocking him. He was still wanting a reward that day. He wanted Jesus to get him down from that cross, even though he knew that he was guilty of a worldly sin, not necessarily a biblical, in a biblical sense, being lost or saved. He was guilty, and he was put to death there, crucified. So, let's see. He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he, the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now. If he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the ninth hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, I'm going to say the bottom part because I'm going to get that wrong. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? So, as he was there on the cross and everything, all the worldly sin was being put on him, even his own Father had to turn his back to let the will of his Father be done, and Jesus fulfill what he came for. And as I said, the simple plan of salvation, there's some spots in the Bible that I want to, we've talked about the thief on the cross that was mocking him. And could you imagine being right beside Jesus the day that he was crucified, being that close to Jesus, having a chance to be saved, but you didn't take it upon yourself and you wasn't willing to be humble enough to ask for forgiveness? That'd be a hard thing to swallow, being right beside Jesus and seeing all that. But there was also another thief on the other side. I'm going to go over to, let's see. I'm going to go to Luke chapter 23, 39 through 46. And as I go here, I was thinking today that Brother Sheely, how smart he is in the Bible, and how knowledgeable he is, and how long that he can make something last. And I just got to thinking that if God wants this to go out to somebody, it doesn't matter how long or short it is. He can do whatever he wants to with it. So in Luke chapter 23, 39 through 46, it says, and one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, If thou be Christ, save thyself and us. So here we go back to the thieves. But the other answering rebuked him, saying, Doest not thou fear God, seeing thou art in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man hath done nothing amiss. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. So he saw what was going on. The thief on the other side, he saw what was going on, and I think that he really knew that there was something different about Jesus. And as he knew that he was there for the same reason, and he was put to death, before he died, he was willing to be humble enough. This is a man that probably didn't know much about religion, probably, was raised very rough. And that's the great thing about salvation. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what color you are, what country you come from. Jesus came to save everybody. In verse 43 it says, And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. And I love that verse because even though one day maybe this thief heard it from Jesus personally, I heard it as a 13-year-old boy on this altar. Maybe not with an audible voice, but he gave me a sweet piece on June 7th, 1996, when he saved my soul, that he basically said the same words. So, the next place I want to go, and I want to point out too, just a lot of people will say, they'll use excuses about salvation, and when you talk to them about God, and maybe they wasn't raised this way, or something like that, a lot of times they'll say, I don't know how to pray, or I've done too much. And as I pointed out to these thieves, I'm sure they thought they did too much, but there was one willing to humble himself. So if you're out there and you're lost and God's dealing with you, there's no excuse, because even right up to this prisoner's death, when he was being crucified, God saved his soul. So in Acts chapter 16, verse 22, all right, Acts chapter 16, verse 22, it says, And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat him. So this is where we're going. We're going back to Jesus. And then they had laid many stripes upon them. They cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Whose having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. Excuse me, this is Paul and Silas. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. So here's Paul and Silas that's been thrown in jail, and they still continue to praise God, and they continue to sing, and I believe they was preaching the whole time, just openly where people could hear them. So they were basically testifying of what Jesus has done for them. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison, awaking out of a sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had fled. So here's this jailer that's heard all this, and this earthquake went on, and he was going to take his own life, but Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, Do thyself no harm, for we are all here. don't you think that he really thought there's something different about these guys? There's something different about these two that, I don't know about y'all, but if I was in jail and something like that happened, I believe I'd be out of there. I believe I'd be gone, but they chose to stay, and what a great testimony to them. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? And they said, Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved and thy house. So here's another instance in the Bible that somebody that was a jailer that's probably never heard of Jesus, and Paul and Silas were thrown into jail. And just like that, their testimony and God doing his work and drawing him to him, that this jailer knew there was something different. And when you're lost, or when you know something's missing, it's up to each and every person to search God out. It's up to whether it's me, my wife, whoever it is, there's sometime in their life, if you've been saved, you've had to personally seek out God for yourself. And let's see. And he took them the same hour of the night and washed their stripes and was baptized, he and all his straightway. And when he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them and rejoiced, believing God with all his house. And when it was day, the magistrates sent the sergeants, saying, Let those men go. And the keeper of the prison told them, saying to Paul, The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace. And right there, even on down, if you read, I'm not going to read all of it, but even though they were going to let them go, Paul and Silas wanted to stay around to tell everybody the good news when they could have just left. And just as I said, the simple plan of salvation that can be, there's not a perfect prayer for salvation. I think everybody's is different, but it all comes from the heart. If you can remember when you were lost and you were trying to find the words of what to say, I'm sure everybody here has went through the whole, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for this, tried to remember all your sins. You can never remember everything you've done. And not even that. The older you get, you realize it wasn't just about the sins that you already committed. It was the sins 25 years later that you committed. He covered every single one of them when he died on that cross. I want to go over to, as I said earlier, I said something that, I said a lot of people say they don't know how to pray. And I'm going to prove this, you can say that all you want. You can say, I've never been a prayer, and the way I put it at elementary school when I was talking to some young kids, there was 2 or 3 of them that raised their hands, and they said they didn't know how to pray. And I said, do you have a best friend? And they said yes. And I said, just talk to him like you would talk to your best friend. And that's the easiest way I can put it. But I also want to go back to Luke chapter 8, 43 through 48. And this is the woman that had the blood disease. And when Jesus was coming through the city, that there was multitudes of people around wanting to see Jesus, wanting to see what he was about. And so in Luke chapter 8, verse 43 through 48, it says, And he said unto, I'm going to start at 42. And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me, thou comest. No, let's see. No, I'm in the wrong. Hang on. Luke chapter 8, 43. Okay. Okay, here we go. Luke chapter 8, verse 43. And a woman having issue of blood for 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched. And Jesus said, Who touched me? When all denied, Peter and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and thou sayest thou, Who touched me? And Jesus said, Somebody hath touched me, for I perceive the virtue is gone out of me. So here's a woman that has been sick for 12 years with I would guess, a deadly disease eventually, and I'm sure she thought there was no hope for her. And if you can remember when you're lost and you don't know what to do, on the inside you feel like there's no hope for you. You're empty. You know something is missing. You're separated from God. And here's a woman that knew if she had the faith enough, if she could get close enough to Jesus just to touch his garment, that he would heal her. And it was also, she thought she could get healed physically, but she got healed spiritually. Jesus saved her because she had such great faith that Jesus was going to heal her worldly problems. Her faith was so much that when she touched the hem of his garment, virtue left his body and he knew something happened. So that's what kind of faith you have to have when it comes to, I'm sure she didn't even say a word when she was around him. And that got back to my point of saying, a lot of people say they don't know how to pray and they can't do this and they can't do that. All Jesus wants is you to give up on yourself. Be willing to give up on yourself and give him your whole heart and trust in him. And it's the sweetest peace that you'll ever know. And I've seen this picture before, and up at the top of it said, in cursive, it said a perfect prayer. And it just had teardrops on the page. And sometimes when you think you hadn't said anything to God, you hadn't maybe prayed enough, sometimes you don't have to say a word. And a lot of times, those are the best prayers when you don't say a word and you know he's listening and you know he's close. And that's what this woman did. She had enough faith where she just touched the hem of his garment and he saved her. So my next place I'm going to go to is 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 2. And I wanted to just point this out. Chapter 6, verse 2, it says, For he saith, I have heard thee in a time accepted, in the day of salvation have I secured thee. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. In today's world that we live in, a lot of people will want the easy way out, and they'll, come up with every way, maybe the plan of salvation, or want somebody to pray for them, or tell them what to say, and maybe just go out and say, well, I'm going to live my life different and get baptized, and that's still not good enough. If you ever find Jesus, it'll be your prayer your prayer only, and it'll be when He's dealing with you. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. I've got this marked in my Bible, and I wasn't planning on reading it, but I just seen it. For He hath made Him to be sin for us, who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in Him. So here again, Jesus never did do anything wrong, never had one bad thought, was a perfect sacrifice, and they crucified Him there on the cross, and He was willing to do it for not just us here. He was willing to do it for anybody listening tonight. He was willing to do it for the whole world. So I just want everybody to know, and like I said, I truly believe everybody here has been saved, and maybe I'm not talking to y'all, but everybody is going to face Jesus one day. There's no way around it. When we die, there's one or two places to go. I would hope and pray that it's serious enough that if you don't know Jesus today, that you would really think about where you're going to spend eternity and seek Him out for yourself and be willing to do whatever it takes to have salvation. This is my lesson. Has anybody got anything, questions or anything like that? And I apologize, I forgot about praying before. I think I did that in Sunday school 2 or 3 times. I would get so worked up about this, but today when I was in the tractor all day, I was thinking about how I'm going to put all this together and whether it's going to be a mess or what, but I turned the radio on one time, and as I turned it on, I thought, well, I better turn it off, because what if he tries to tell me something else? I'm not listening. So this is my lesson. I hope anybody out there tonight that's listening, or maybe that'll listen some other time, that they can get something out of this, and God bless y'all. And I guess we need to, does anybody have anything but before we dismiss?
You did a good job.
I tried. That's all I'm doing. But now he said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm nervous." He said, "Well, I wouldn't be." I said, "Well, you want to do it?" But I guess as we dismiss, does anybody have any prayer requests tonight?
Keep our revival in our thoughts.
Amen. Not only our revival, let's keep all the revivals going on right now. I know Brother Anthony's at Green Valley tonight, and there's going to be a lot of revivals going on. And I know there's a lot of sick people out there, and a lot of people on the prayer request list, and I hope and pray that God's with them, and if it be Thy will, He can get them back to their much appointed health.
I texted Crystal before I came, and she said that Brother Sheely's surgery on his eye, just when he has to go back in 2 weeks and have another one, but it went really, really well.
Good.
Yeah,
Maybe he'll be back next week. I'm kidding. Does anybody else have anything? All right, we'll stand and be dismissed. Ben Dallas, could you dismiss us?
Sir, dear Lord, thank you for this day, and thank you for this message. Thank you for my family. Thank you for saving my soul, and thank you for all the things that you do for my family, this church, and thank you for all the things that you do. These things I ask in God's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That was worth it. Well, I wish y'all the best.